当最后一回头一看，哎呦，雪橇也找不到。
When I looked back, I realized that I could no longer see the sledge. Even without my down jacket, I could still get in the tent and wait for supplies and rescue. But if the entire sledge was lost, I'd lose all of my supplies, communication devices, and everything else. Then it would truly be the end for me.
我们想做这个事情，就是让更多的人能。
We wanted to do this in order to highlight the changes in glaciers under the influence of climate change. At the same time, we hope to send out a message that Chinese scientific researchers are taking steps to address the impact of climate change.
我是温旭，那我其实是一个科学探险者。
My name is Wen Xu. I'm a scientist and an explorer, combining my exploration tools with scientific research. Actually, what I'm doing now is more about combating climate change. Me and my team established an NGO called the Polar Hub.
公益组织叫做极地未来。
Wen Xu, a glaciologist and explorer, is the first Chinese person to reach the South Pole on his own. He completed the route without using any external forces after skiing and manhandling the supply sledge for 1,500 kilometers over a period of 58 days. As the co-founder of his own non-governmental organization, Wen Xu dedicated his on-foot Antarctic journey to bringing greater public attention to the issue of climate change.
其实我们和所有生物在气候变化面前。
When dealing with climate change, we humans and all living things are facing the exact same destiny. I look forward to working with more people from home and abroad, and I believe that we should work together to preserve the ecosystem and contribute to building the shared future for mankind.
In today's episode, we'll hear how Wen Xu makes his moves to promote glacier conservation and influence the next generation on the topic of climate change. It was early January 2020. Just a few weeks before that year's Chinese New Year. While many people in China were busy preparing for the country's biggest annual festival, down at the extreme south side of the planet, thousands of miles away, a young Chinese explorer was struggling to take another step in winds of 26 meters per second. He was deep in the Antarctic hinterland, and the temperature was minus 35 degrees Celsius, making breathing almost impossible. With visibility less than a meter and no object of reference in sight, it would be very easy to get lost in the seemingly endless white expanse. Wen Xu had to regularly consult his compass to ensure he didn't deviate away from his path.
单人其实就是完全过程中一个人。
To go on the trip solo means I was on my own during the whole process. There was no help from any external forces, such as machinery, wind force, or dog sled. But I relied solely on the most traditional travel mode, which was skiing.
He was constantly thrown off balance by the sharp and uneven ridges carved in the ice by winds. And the sledge would occasionally sink into the sticky, fresh snow, making the daily 12 hours of hauling especially taxing.
每一刻都处于危险之中。
Danger lurked around every corner. The South Pole is known for being one of the coldest, driest, and windiest places on the planet. Even with the snow wall to protect it, my tent was still at risk of being blown down in the face of the strongest gale. Pulling a 185-kilogram sledge was extremely difficult for me at first. To pull it, I often had to tilt my body at a 45-degree angle to the ground.
然后才能把它拉动。
The 185-kilogram sledge carried all of his gear, including telecommunication devices, a windproof tent, heating tools, food, and other necessities, all of which were of vital importance for his survival in Antarctica. but it was still a lot of luggage to carry, entirely using his own muscle power alone.
那我记得最累的时候就是走到终点。
I remember that for the most tiring moments, I couldn't even stand after taking off my snowboard. Every day, I had to crawl on my knees into the tent to set it up against the wind. And I wouldn't be able to move at all after lying down to rest for the day. I even wrote down a line of encouragement in my tent, saying, rely on your physical strength in the morning, perseverance in the afternoon, and survival instinct after camping.
上午靠体能，然后下午靠这个毅力，然后扎营就只能靠生存本能了。
As Wen Xu continued on his journey, such physical and mental extremes were repeated day after day. He only managed to ski about 70 kilometers in the first 10 days, and due to the weather conditions, he was frequently forced to slow down and wait for a break. But to his surprise, the sun finally appeared on the 11th day. Wen Xu was so excited to see this ray of hope that he ran 26 kilometers that day alone, representing the longest daily distance he had traveled since starting out. The route he chose began from the coast of Berkner Island, which is locked within the Ronny ice shelf in eastern Antarctica. This would require Wen Xu to negotiate 3 different types of terrain: the island, the ice shelf, and the Antarctic plateau. Wen Xu recalls that when reaching the Antarctic plateau, he had to tread carefully to avoid falling through a snow bridge into a glacial crack of hundreds of meters deep. But as an experienced mountaineer and a glaciologist with years of outdoor training practices, Wen Xu had ample experience and confidence in overcoming the geographical difficulties. The only time he felt truly scared and panicked was when a gust of wind caught his clothing and threw it relentlessly into the alabaster emptiness.
出发的第2天，我的羽绒服就被吹走了。
On the second day after departure, the wind blew away my down jacket. True, my awareness of always keeping an eye on the gears was a bit lacking when I first started the trip. I simply placed my down jacket right there on the ice, unaware that the wind was so strong that it could be blown away quickly. It happened fast, and my jacket was already gone so far beyond my reach in a matter of seconds.
Worse still, as he attempted to recover the down jacket, he realized that he was running further and further away from his original track, where his sledge was located.
当最后一回头一看，哎呦，雪橇也找不到。
When I looked back, I realized that I could no longer see the sledge. Even without my down jacket, I could still get in the tent and wait for supplies and rescue. But if the entire sledge was lost, I'd lose all of my supplies, communication devices, and everything else. Then it would truly be the end for me.
At that moment, it was not hard for Wen Xu to quickly leverage the priorities and take the immediate action for the sake of his own survival.
当时就必须马上做出一个选择。
I had to make an immediate decision, which was to abandon the down jacket and return to my sledge as soon as possible. And because I couldn't see the sledge, I had to rely on my footprints from chasing the jacket to find my way back. The footprints were almost buried by the snow that had been blown by the wind at the time. Fortunately, my reaction was quick enough, and there was still some footprints for me to follow. I eventually returned and discovered the sledge.
With no resupply possible, Wen Xu later crafted another jacket out of his spare sleeping bag after returning to the tent. So the journey continued.
When I finally found my sledge, I was both relieved and disappointed in myself. How could I have lost my down jacket so carelessly? This is a critical error that could have led to fatal results in polar exploration. So, to remind myself, I later added another written line in my tent that says, "No more mistakes."
Meanwhile, Wen Xu explained that the goal of this trip was not to set polar records, but rather to raise the awareness of global warming among Chinese youth and collect valuable climate data from the remote interior. Along the way, he collected hundreds of samples of surface ice and snow to be analyzed chemically.
我们想做这个事情，就是让更多的人能够关注到。
We wanted to do this in order to highlight the changes in glaciers under the influence of climate change. At the same time, we hope to send out a message that Chinese scientific researchers are taking steps to address the impact of climate change. And we incorporated scientific research aspects into our explorations, so that our findings were not only based on the trip, but also on solid scientific facts and data.
After pulling his sledge for over 1,500 kilometers, Wen Xu eventually completed the route and became the first Chinese person to have reached the South Pole solo. He said that as he approached the end of his journey, he was motivated to get to the destination as quick as possible for a very special reason.
一到最后接近极点的时候，那时候我们升老2嘛。
As I was approaching the South Pole, it was also nearing the 3-month mark for our second child's birthday. I wanted to catch up and try to arrive on the same day. It was sort of compensation for not being around her while I was away. So on the final day, I slept very little and walked for nearly 70 kilometers in one go.
According to his wife, Hu Zhaozhao, who had been remotely coordinating the entire journey for him, Wen Xu seemed energetic and in a better state than everyone had expected after 58 days of traveling in the extreme environment. Wen Xu, on the other hand, also shares a heartfelt gratitude to his significant half for showing him great trust and support ever since the beginning.
然后我的爱人对这个事情给我的帮助和支持就是非常大的。
My wife has been of great assistance and support to me throughout the process. She used to work as a consultant and had a stable job. Later, she decided to quit her job to help with our exploration plan. She too enjoys mountaineering, and we met as college classmates who both joined the school's mountaineering team. But love for outdoor experiences wasn't the sole reason of her resignation. She explained to me that she recognized the urgency and significance of combating climate change, and that she was determined to act alongside me.
People living near the polar regions are the first to notice that the world's coldest places are getting warmer and warmer. But many others still remain unaware of or are unaffected by this fact. Therefore, it is up to explorers and glacier researchers like my husband, Wen Xu, to spread the word and call for more attention to the warmed-up glaciers and the polar regions.
In 2018, the couple founded Polar Hub, a non-profit organization aimed at polar scientific exploration and the popularization of climate sciences. They also recruited several like-minded young people in China to work with them towards this goal.
然后我们成立了这个组织的同时，还发起了一个项目，就叫小于2度计划。
Upon establishing our organization, we also set up an initiative called Below 2 degrees Celsius. It covers a scientific expedition across the North Pole, the South Pole, and what we call the third pole of the planet, which is the summit of Mount Qomolangma. It's the Earth's highest mountain above sea level. These are the places all covered by ice and snow, thus affected the most by climate change.
The name of the project was inspired by the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, specifying that the target is to hold the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Through his first personal involvement, therefore, Wen Xu wanted to help achieving this goal through reporting from the coldest corners on Earth. And as they marched out, he and his team would also conduct research on the planet's glaciers and ice caps where the impact of climate change is most directly revealed.
Hey Wen Xu, how are we feeling today?
好
Great!
今天这个正经的开始上冰川了。
Today's the first day we get onto the ice cap of Greenland Island. It's definitely much more interesting than simply carrying luggage around like yesterday.
In 2018, the team successfully completed the scientific expedition to the summit of Mount Qomolangma and crossed Greenland in the Arctic Circle as planned. However, their passion and success in the previous 2 stops of the journey couldn't cover the fact that Antarctic exploration, their final goal, is a costly business.
We
also wanted to gain some sponsorship and support. At that time, an outdoor sportswear company helped provide some custom-made clothing. They also provided us with some funds. We tried to look for more partners, but there weren't many.
Very few of the people they reached out to believed that Wen Xu, a young explorer just out of his 30s, was capable of accomplishing such a challenging task at that time. Many thought of it as a highly risky investment and thus denied their requests. Having been unable to secure full sponsorship for their project, Wen Xu and Hu Zhaozhao made the decision to pay for a large part of the expenditure out of the family's own pocket. The South Pole journey alone cost them over 2 million yuan, or roughly $306,000.
When confronted by these doubts, we were still willing to give it a try, because I knew I had ample preparations and experience. I've been exploring the glaciers ever since I was 16, so it wouldn't be a strange experience to me. I'm comfortable with challenging myself a bit under such a familiar setting, and I hope my actions will show the world the determination and courage of Chinese youth in combating climate change.
Though only trusted and supported by a few, Wen Xu did not flinch in the face of all the questioning. Instead, he was further motivated to carry out their plan. When asked what inspired his passion for glacier conservation, Wen Xu shared another of his expedition experiences, which took place on the glaciers on Qinghai Tibet Plateau around 5 years ago. In May 2017, Wen Xu was trekking on the glaciers with a team of scientists and reporters near the headwaters of China's Yangtze River. All of a sudden, he fell through the glacial ice and ended up submerged in icy water.
I heard him making loud noise, and the next second, we could only see his head above water.
He was carrying more than 20 kilograms of scientific equipment on his back, but before all the weight started to draw him even deeper into the water, years of expedition and outdoor training experiences helped him to react quickly. After several attempts with his ice pick to gain a grip, he was finally able to haul his freezing body out. The entire incident had only lasted 30 seconds. Later, they learned that the glacier has melted and formed a void space filled by water under the thinning frozen surface. Due to warmer surrounding temperatures, many more icy lakes have likewise been formed on the glaciers. For everyone on that trip, it was a shocking discovery to have witnessed the direct impact of the climate change. And such a survival experience had also delivered Wen Xu a personal awakening to the dangers of global warming.
This life and death experience would usually change a person forever. The impact of this incident on myself and on my entire family was enormous. My wife was still carrying my first child when I fell into that ice lake. And if I had failed to climb out that time, my child would have been born without ever seeing her father, which would certainly cause great pain to my family.
More determined than ever, Wen Xu wanted to raise the alarm to involve more people in this quest of protecting the ecological environment.
I'm not sure if this is my mission, but I believe action needs to be taken, not just for our own sake, but also for our next generation. The impact of climate change is much more than glacial melting, but it will also bring other issues such as rising sea levels and extreme weather. And after all, no one wants their children to live in an endangered world.
quoting a famous line of Mark Twain, "The two most important days in your life are the one you are born and the day you find out why." In Wen Xu's case, that experience was the trigger of a lifelong career and goal. In November 2021, Polar Hub set out on another mission named the Glacier Memory. This time, their action was joined by scientists and scholars from the Institute of International River and Ecosecurity of Yunnan University in South China. Their goal is to drill out core samples from low-altitude glaciers on the verge of extinction.
Maybe in the near future, glaciers will become memories of the past. There's a saying in China, taking history as a bright mirror, we are aware of the rise and fall. What we are working on now is also a study of paleoclimate change and trying to predict the process leading to future changes. An ice core sample is actually a piece of ice that is drilled vertically down at one point in the glacier. The length of an ice core could vary from 10 meters to hundreds or even thousands of meters. Maybe in 100 years, our descendants will reopen this handbook of history with more advanced technology.
One of the 3 ice core samples taken out by the Glacier Memory team would be preserved in Antarctica for posterity. According to Wen Xu, the team aims to build an ice core bank that will enable future scientists to extract more detailed climate information from the preserved ice core. At the same time, he anticipates more opportunities to work together with the international communities in hope of carrying out more global collaborations on glacier research in the future.
其实我们和所有生物在气候变化面前
When dealing with climate change, we humans and all living things are facing the exact same destiny. I look forward to working with more people from home and abroad, and I believe that we should work together to preserve the ecosystem and contribute to building the shared future for mankind.
Time's passing, and Wen Xu, now with more exciting exploration stories to share, has begun to figure out ways to engage the attention of young people in China. For the past 2 years, he's been making multiple trips to elementary and middle schools across the country and has shared his experiences with the children. Both he and Hu Zhaozhao aim to nurture this engagement into long-term, practical results. It is their biggest wish to involve more young people in creating a sustainable future for all mankind.
我觉得我们现在已经被钢筋水泥封闭在这个城市里。
I think many of us have now been enclosed in this city by steel and cement, when we should go out instead and get to feel the charm of the natural world. Because I think nature has so much more to teach us, and we, at the same time, should learn its ways. I've been in love with mountaineering since an early age, and this seed planted when I was little has grown into who I am today. So I hope to share the spirit of loving nature and protecting the earth with the kids. I think they will probably do an even better job than us in the future.
With that, we conclude this episode of Footprints. Thanks for listening. I'm Yushan. If you're interested in hearing more about the lives of ordinary but incredible people in China, follow us on Apple Podcast. Just key in Footprints and you can find more stories anytime, anywhere. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.